For spirit, yes, spirit is in this very room. And I sung that until I felt better. April of 2020, I had a meltdown. It was right after the beginning of the pandemic. And I thought, wow, what am I going to do? Everything that I do is in person. It's with people. It's not on Zoom. It's not on a virtual platform. It's in person. And so what am I going to do? And so I started thinking about my prospects, and they became lesser and lesser and lesser and lesser. And I said, well, I need to find a place where I can begin to understand that there's going to be something beyond this. There's life on the other side of this. That's hard to get to. At least it was for me, because the prospects were not there. So I thought. So I love to make soup, and I love to put vegetables in soup. I may live in New York, but I am a country boy. And so I started washing vegetables, and I put my red lentils, washed them, and I was all ready. And as I washed the vegetables, my mind began to spin out the tirade of thoughts. And of course, it went down this dark hole. And the first thought was, what are you going to do now? I didn't have an answer for that. I didn't know. And then the other thoughts that started coming began to attack what I'd already been through. All of the things that I thought that I hadn't achieved. All of the things that I thought I hadn't done. All the things that I did that I thought maybe I should not have done them. And my mother's voice came ringing loud. She said, you should have kept that job with IBM right out of college. You would have had all the benefits you needed now. My grandmother, my beloved grandmother, Wilhelmina, used to tell me, he's gonna be a preacher. You need to go into a ministry. And my mother's uncles used to tell me all the time, he's going to be a famous athlete, baseball player. And those thoughts began to ring in my mind because I didn't do any of that. Maybe the ministry, yes, but this is what I call ministry. But I think everything that I've done has been some sort of ministry. But I began to think, what if I had have taken my mother's advice, my grandmother's advice? What if I had stayed with one thing and not moved to New York with $400 in my pocket wanting to be on Broadway? My mother told me, she said, you left the most stable job in the world, and now you've gone to the opposite side, and you've moved to the craziest place on the face of the planet, wanting to do the worst job and the craziest job on the face of the planet. What are you doing? And so those thoughts began to ring in my mind. Maybe I did the wrong thing. What if? Then, and of course, with all of that, you know, the tirade, those types of moods and attitudes and thoughts, they bring along all the cousins. So with all of that comes disappointment, deep disappointment. Anger comes in there, and then the blame and shame game. I'm still washing the vegetables. And I blamed my mother. I blamed my father. And I went down the line and I said, well, if I had a better brother and a better sister, maybe they could have told me these things, and maybe Granny could have told me. And then I got to myself. And that was the biggest portion of who I blamed. And there was a part of me that said, Charles, look at your life. It's not a success. You've failed at a lot of stuff. You know, when you go down a deep, dark hole, you do find those things that call to you, that will speak to you right where you are, Vibration is vibration. There's a low vibration and then there's a higher vibration. So I was at the low vibration with all of these things in the forefront of my mind. I'm still washing the vegetables. And so I got to this place where I think I had just spiraled out. The mind had just released as much as it could to blame, to put shame on, to be angry with, to be so disappointed with. Have you ever been in a swimming pool and you go down too deep and hold your breath for too long and realize you need some air? And so you pedal up, trying to get to the surface. And somewhere in that tirade, I remember taking a deep breath. It wasn't conscious. It just happened. I'm holding some collard greens in my hand. It seemed funny now, but back then, I realized for the past 45 minutes, I've just been washing and going deeper, deeper, deeper. Something said, put them down, call someone so you can hear another voice. You can get another voice in your head because the one that's speaking to you now has spiraled you out. So I called one of my friends, he's a mentor, and I said, I just went through one of the darkest short periods of my life. I said, I don't know what I'm going to do from this place. I don't know what to do. He said, well, do what you teach. What do you tell the kids? I say, take a breath. I say, meditate. I say, go outside and be with nature, something that neutralizes. Nature is the greatest neutralizer. So he said, why don't you do that? And I did. I went outside and I asked the question because I wanted to know, God, where are you? I wanted to know. All this time I had thought and I had gained all of this speed of understanding. God is everywhere, everywhere present. God is right there and God is over there. And right now, at that present time, I was asking, God, where are you? I need to know. And all of a sudden, a voice spoke. I believe when we do ask the question, there's the answer inside. Sometimes we just have to ask. And the voice said, you see that tree over there? And I said, yeah, I see the tree. That's one of my favorite trees on the block. That tree, I'm right where that tree is. As a matter of fact, I am the tree. I am the tree. I created the tree. You feel the wind that's blowing against your face? I am the wind. Walk down the street. I heard the birds and the bees. I am that. I said, okay, you're here in nature. I went back inside and I sat down, and this was the most important thing that happened to me that day that set me forth. I sat on the side of my bed and I heard, this was the voice of what I call God, saying, I'm right here in this very room. I am everywhere that you are. You cannot escape me. All you have to do is call on me, and I'm right there. And I said, you're here in this very room, in this very place where I just spiraled out. I was here when you were spiraling out. I took a deep breath and I started to sing that song. There's quite enough joy for all the world. There's quite enough hope and quite enough power to chase away any gloom. Because what? God is in the room. Then it went a little deeper and said, goes back to, I think, Psalms when David was talking. And God said, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. The fearfully translated to me as reverently, and the wonderful was you are unique. There is none like you, made in the image of the one God. Says, okay, God, I'm gonna need a little bit more help, okay? So do you remember when you were 5 years old? And I do. It was a time of my life. Anything, everything was possible, likely, feasible. Said, call on that one. He knew exactly what we're talking about. And I began to write. I wrote what it felt like in a place where I felt stuck, where nothing would move. And my 5-year-old spoke to me and said, just wait a minute. Wait. And always remember that God is everywhere you are. There is something on the other side of this, Charles. So it's a 5-year-old talking to me like that? There's a place inside of all of us that understands this. It doesn't matter what age we are, and sometimes we're not able to articulate it, and I wasn't able to articulate it at 5, but now at this age, I'm able to call it what it is, and I'm so grateful. And so in this moment, I invite you, if you're in a place where it's kind of hard to even imagine what might be on the other side of what you're going through, I invite you to understand, and whatever it is you need to say, God is in this place. And because I am reverently, wonderfully, and uniquely made by this great Creator, there is something always pushing life through me. As a matter of fact, it's life itself. It's life itself. And as the band was playing, and here's to life, I love it. And every joy it brings. And then it resolves into, may all your storms be weathered, and all that's good get better. Here's to life. Here's to love. And I say this morning, here's to you. God bless you. Before I sing this song, I have to say this. Normally when I travel, I go to a lot of places. I don't have family in most of the places. And so when I came to Raleigh, I do have family here. And they came out in full force. I'm so grateful for my family, my cousins. So I just say thank you for coming and showing me so much love. When they showed up in the lobby this morning, I was overwhelmed. I was just so moved because I'm a lone ranger. You know, sometimes I just think about all of the things that I've done and I'm like, Charles, it's time for you now to stop being a lone ranger. That's hard to do. But anyway, we're going to sing this song.
I hope you got something out of today's service. We intend to bring you things that will help you in your life become more of who you want to be, give you the freedom of forgiveness and the hope of expectancy that your life will unfold in a way that brings you joy, happiness, and is a contribution to the world. If you would like to contribute to this ministry, please go to unitytriangle.org, hit the donate button, and it will lead you into an easy way of doing that. We thank you for your attention and look forward to seeing you again here.